between the three of us, we might have a fully recovered person. Except,
yeah, I mean,
maybe. Welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast, where we help you find your chosen family.
Do we really know?
I feel like we need a new tagline.
I agree. I don't know how good we are at coming up on things on the fly.
What if we had a contest and listeners submitted their ideas for our new tagline?
Like it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
pop off in the comments.
let's make them do all the work. God.
Yeah, but this is a mental health podcast, I suppose, and my name is Christina.
And my name is Lauren.
You want to talk about how stressed we are?
Yeah.
What has been going on with you, Lauren, since the last time we talked?
Oh, let's see. I should have been prepared to talk about stuff. You know, I don't even know if anything, like, in particular, or if it's just normal stuff. Like, last Sunday night, I felt more dread going to work than I ever have in, I don't know, like a decade. So that still sucks. That makes
sense, like, considering everything that's happened.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, a lot of times, I mean, my job is fine, but it's not super exciting. So yeah, there's been a lot of times where I'm, like, not happy about going to work. I'm just like, I gotta go to work tomorrow. But it was such a weird feeling to just be like, I almost feel scared. I do not want to go. I cannot think of anything I want to do less. And it wasn't terrible when I was there. Nobody said anything. Nothing else happened. But it just now I get that feeling sometimes. Yay!
Yeah, but the seed is planted in your head and the anxiety is there. And
exactly.
It's almost worse when it's all in your head.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then I'm just feeling the whole, like, appointment fatigue. It just seems like, oh, here's my dietitian and here's my therapist and here's this again. And I have strongly been considering, you know, taking a break or just being a dumbass and flat out quitting everything. But I think I came to the conclusion that I realized, like, since I learned this week that I owe nothing, no copay. You know, my insurance finally came through for my therapist.
Yay!
And I'm pretty sure that's because, you know, I shelled out a boatload for treatment and I've hit my out-of-pocket max. But so that's my theory right now is I'm just like, you know what? Getting all this shit for free. So just stick it out till the end of the year before you make any decisions. So that's where I am.
I think it's good that you don't quit everything. I don't think that would be wise.
I don't think anyone would agree that that's a good idea except for maybe me when I'm feeling frustrated. But yeah.
Well, hey, no, thank you for telling us because I think a lot of us have felt that way. And it does seem so like such bullshit that like you hear the recovery is work, but you don't expect it to be the kind of work that involves, you know, that amount of appointments, you know, like just the physical effort of doing all that on top. It's like a part-time job. You didn't expect recovery to be like a part-time job is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Like I feel like I'm taking college courses while also trying to like work a full-time job. That's what it feels like. It's like I didn't expect it to be like school. What?
No, I'm validating the shit out of that. You are working 2 jobs right now. And you deserve props for not quitting.
Yay me.
Yay you.
But I also said that because I remembered last week that you said something about like, I don't know, I don't feel like therapy's working and stuff like that. And I would say the same to you. Be like, don't quit.
I know. I'm not quitting yet. I'm feeling a little better this week because I sold my motorcycle.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I am not quite in the financial bind that I was in before. And on one hand, that's great, right? That's what I wanted. But also, I hate that my sense of security and peace is this tied to money.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a certain point. I feel like it's okay because I don't feel like you're somebody who, you know, like your life centers around money. You're a normal person that it's like everybody needs a certain amount. Sorry.
Did you just call me a normal person on my mental health podcast?
I did indeed. As far as financial security, you are normal. In many other ways, maybe not so much.
Hard disagree there. I feel like money haunts my every waking moment. Maybe I just don't share it. I don't know.
What I'm trying to say is I feel like that is natural for people until you get to a certain amount of comfort with it. Like anybody who is in your financial situation would be hella stressed whether they say so or not. You are at the point where someone in your situation would normally be. That makes sense.
I guess I'm just inventing ways to feel guilty. I have been watching this really great TV show this week that I wanted to like get you to watch also.
The one you shared with me that I want to watch anyway?
Yeah, and the reason that I just thought about it was because we did a podcast episode with Chasing Childhood last week. We watched a movie.
And it was super fun.
It was so much fun. Isn't it fun doing a podcast that has nothing to do with mental health?
Oh my God, yeah, it's such a nice break. I was glad we did that 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, we still talked about mental health because it's us.
Yeah.
But that will come out on the 25th of this month, October, so we'll post it in our feed and everything. But yeah, speaking of TV shows and movies and such, I watched this new show on Netflix called Everything Now, and it's all about eating disorder recovery and like trying to catch up on everything you missed and dealing with ignorant people who don't know how to treat you and just basically what that's all like. I feel like I'm doing a really poor job selling it.
So is it a British show?
Yes, it is.
As soon as I saw that, that reminded me of, have you ever heard of the show I think it's My Big Fat Mad Diary?
No.
That made me think of watching that, even though I haven't seen this show yet. Someone turned me on to this show called My Big Fat Mad Diary, and that was I just thought of it because it's also a British show, which is probably a terrible way to group things together. But it was...
You mean all British shows aren't the same?
I know. I just learned that today.
We're American. What do we know?
Exactly, stupid Americans. So, but it is kind of. It sounds similar. It's a girl that just gets out of a psych hospital, and her main issue is that she attempted suicide. Is how she got in there, but also, she's in a larger body and obviously has like some binge eating disorder, and her best friend in the psych hospital is anorexic, and
how have I never heard of this?
It's so good. I know. I had never heard it, and there's like 3 seasons. I think it's on Hulu if you want to watch it. I just like zipped through it. It was so good. So I had high hopes for this show, just for some reason, they said like, oh, it's British. And I was like, oh, that other British show I watched with eating disorder characters was so good. So I hope this is too.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll do episodes on both of those eventually. No one asked us for more review episodes, but I want to do them anyway because it's our podcast and we can do whatever we want.
Well, and I thought that show might be good too if we both like it because it's short, so we can both actually watch it. The other one has like 3 seasons and take forever.
There's only 8 episodes. I will say it was kind of triggering at times, and also it was kind of cheesy.
Okay.
It's about high schoolers and a lot of shenanigans that high schoolers pull, and a lot of parts of it felt kind of lifetimey, but they canceled it out with some really relevant stuff as well. So go watch it so you can join the conversation when we do talk about it.
Yes, I am excited to watch it now.
I'm excited for this interview, yo.
Yeah, me too.
So we are waiting for Orion to come on. He's a long-time listener. I didn't realize like how long he'd been listening. I think he found our podcast in 2020.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he sent lots of voicemails in the past, but today he's actually going to be talking to us.
I remember I didn't know, because when I joined on, then obviously he was leaving us voicemails and comments and things like that, and it seemed so comfortable that I was just like, oh, this is just one of Christina's friends that listens. And then you told me like, no, it's someone that just found us. That's so cool.
Just found us in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
I think Orion's here. All right, we got to get back in professional mode.
Okay.
Hello. Orion, are you there?
Hello. Please join us.
Name.
I wonder if he can hear us.
That would be awkward. Oh, he's texting me.
Okay.
Hold on. This is so typical. Oh, okay. Orion's back. Hello?
Hello, I can hear people talking.
You can hear us?
Yeah.
Yay! We did it! Welcome to Pickles and Vodka.
Wow, it's so neat here. Look at all this stuff.
I know, it's a regular playground.
We got
Yeah, there's a dog. There's some cats.
For some reason, I'm
Okay, so
picturing.
kids, we need to be aware that there's a lag on this episode, and we all need to try our best to talk one at a time, even though it's going to be really hard.
I literally have a note on my desk in front of me that says, "Speak slowly."
With that said, now that I've ruined the vibe,
No.
welcome to the podcast. Oh God, I'm making it awkward now. Lauren, take over.
Hey, I used to have an illustration by you in my office, but now they don't deserve it because it sucks.
The office, not your
The office,
artwork.
yes. Oh my God.
They deserve
I'm
better.
really good at saying things badly.
No, your office deserves office.
Exactly. They deserve my middle finger. Picture of
Whoa.
it.
What's going on at work? You're gonna start out with that? I want to know the tea.
Oh, no, nothing's changed since last week, and everybody heard enough of me bitching about it, but they're just still making me feel awkward. They're mean. They're gossipy junior high girls.
It sucks so much when like adults just don't act like adults. You're like, you guys, this is just our jobs. Like, this is my job. Like, why are you taking it personally?
Exactly.
Do you understand how little we care about our jobs? Like, this is the thing. This is the thing that sucks my soul. Like, do you think I actually care enough to be petty?
Yeah, we could talk about that for hours. But Orion, I want you to introduce yourself for the listeners who might not know who you are. You know, your name, pronouns, where you live, anything else you want to share right off the bat before this descends into pure chaos.
Okay. I'm Orion. I'm 25.
Hello.
I live in the Pacific North. Okay, fine. I live in Portland, Oregon. It's a big enough city.
Whoa.
Okay.
But that's not doxing me.
I like how you started off like fully intending to hide where you live, and then you were like, fuck it, they can know.
Here's my address. Please send me mail. If you care enough about me to stalk me, I'm kind of like not mad about it. So please don't.
Now that they know where you live,
My age.
why don't you say...
Age,
No,
sex,
you said your
location.
age. You're 25.
Oh, I gotta say my sex.
Oh, yeah.
In no sex, I'm so alone. Should I stop telling jokes and just like get on with your format?
Okay, no, Orion, we have been like fucking out of control since we got on. We tried to do an intro before you came, and we were just like fucking it all up.
All right, I'm here to not get you back on track.
Yes.
Cool.
But yeah, Orion, what's your deal? What's your deal with mental health?
Why would we want to talk to you? No, just kidding.
Well, you could start by saying like how you found this podcast and like why you started listening to the podcast. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Oh, yeah. I think I found you from like you were a guest on someone else's podcast. What's his name?
The Bulimia podcast?
It was either that or like Kai Plant's podcast.
Oh, Feeling Weird.
Yeah. Shout out
Oh
to
my
that one.
God. That podcast just ended and they had a really sad like farewell episode, but it was beautiful.
It was very anyway, back to me.
Anyway.
Right?
But yeah, I guess it was like 2 years ago, like back in 2020. I was going through a very difficult time and I needed podcasts by other crazy people because my mental health history, I'm a weirdo. I'm weird.
Fit right in. Even though I just called Christina normal.
Yeah, she called me normal and I was like, what?
She was offended.
So you'll fit right in.
Yeah, I think it's normal to, have mental health issues. I think pretending like it's not common is a problem. Like, oh, I'm special and different. Actually, you're like everybody, and you also have a place in this world. So we just gotta find it,
But it makes sense to think like, oh, yeah, maybe the people that we view as, like they're perfectly normal. Maybe they're the ones with the problem because they are working so hard to pretend like I am normal. Look at this.
Oh my God, everyone is pretending.
So, Orion, what were you going through in 2020?
I had just been fired from a very abusive job and I had started a slightly better job. And I was like, at a place where you have just recently been through a ton of trauma. It was like nonstop from like, okay, it actually goes back several years. But, 2020 was a difficult year for us all.
Yeah.
So we're going through all the pandemic stuff, and also I'm trying to heal from all this past stuff, when I realized I was not in a place of healing. I was still in a place of deep stress, and I was relying on a lot of like books and podcasts and journaling to just try and self-heal because I didn't have access to therapy. And I'm still not in therapy, but yeah, I had been through so much therapy that I just didn't know what to do with it anymore. And I refused to wait for like the perfect therapist in order to start healing. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die if I wait for the right kind of help. I got to help myself. I got to find people who understand what this is like. And people like Christina who are just, being open and sharing. It helps.
Even when it's hard. We were literally just talking before you came on how hard it is for us to share today, in particular, but also in general lately.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard when you overthink it, but when someone gives you permission, it's easy. And hearing other people share gives you permission.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we love about you, Orion, and because you have shared so many of your thoughts with us and with our listeners and made a lot of people feel less alone. At least I speak for myself. Is that a practice that you've been doing for a while? Just like journaling and processing your thoughts? How long have you been doing that?
It doesn't feel like very long. I feel like I've been very shut up my whole life. I like to listen to people instead of talk. And, I still think that that's the best way to process is by listening to other people.
Absolutely.
Honestly, the first time I think I realized that talking actually helps was when I went to treatment and started doing group therapy.
Well, we should talk about that, honestly.
Yeah.
So we have very similar backgrounds, Orion, and I'm obviously curious to hear about that. Where do you want to start?
Okay. Yeah, maybe I should have just started from the beginning. And briefly, I grew up in a very insulated Christian church setting. Very Christian, very toxic, very cold. Straight up, it's a cult. I don't know. They can sue me. I don't care. Let them fucking try.
Just don't sue us.
Yeah, don't sue Pickles and Vodka. Sue me, please. I want. Yeah.
You have the address.
Right. You can find them.
You can find me at 1019 42069. Okay, so I grew up in this church as a young girl, a whimsical young girl, learning all this stuff that is not true. Things about myself, about, how I'm gross and I have to be a particular way if you want to be acceptable, and, gay people are bad, and it's also very white supremacist type of deal. So I had to unlearn a lot growing up, and that made me feel very isolated from my family, who just didn't want to unlearn, and most of my community, who was just trying to convince me of this one thing. So, you tell yourself lies. You tell lies all the time. When I finally got into the real world in high school, I finally stopped homeschooling and was able to go to an online school. That's where I met my first GSA, and that's where I started to be able to find people who were normal in the sense they weren't religious. Where you get to speak freely and explore new ideas like a real person. But I never felt like a real person. I didn't know who I was or where I came from. I felt like there was something that was maybe different than anybody else. I was the only one who didn't know how to do this.
I still feel like that now. Shit.
Oh yeah, you grow up without dreams and aspirations. You grow up ready to further the kingdom of God, and you don't really know. You realize the real world isn't what you have been taught it was. That, the people you thought would hurt you are actually your greatest friends and allies, and you are actually the enemy. And that's so isolating, and you lose your entire community. I
want to ask about the lying, because when we talked on the phone the other night, you mentioned about lying in therapy, and that kind of got me thinking, when you were religious, you felt like you had to lie about who you were, but then getting out, did you feel like you had to lie about the person you used to be?
Oh, yeah.
What was that transition like?
Yeah, you never want to be the person who's I was a Christian homeschooler. No, I was a Jesus freak. Or you pretend to be normal. You push that down. And nowadays, I'll tell anybody who will listen because they think it's hilarious. And I'm past it. But at the time, you're oh, I hope they don't find out that I'm a weirdo.
Yeah.
I'm able to be open about that now. I'm able to be open about oh, I went to the psych ward and, and I used to be a girl. Those are things that when you're in the thick of it, you don't talk about. You're not ready.
Okay, so sorry, back to your story. You started going to this new school and started discovering, having the freedom to discover who you were. How did things progress from there, like with your family and your new self?
Yeah, well, a lot was going on during my last year of high school. I was able to go to a local online school instead of just homeschooling myself because I wasn't learning anything. I'm like deeply undereducated from that. I'm just trying to teach myself school while I was in like a huge state of chaos at home. My parents were getting divorced. My mom got remarried. My siblings were moving out. I was trying to like get a job, and I was going through all of these like internal changes. But I finally graduated high school, and I started going to my local community college for welding. Didn't turn out to be my passion, but it was fun.
That's cool, though. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I can do a little welding. One time I set my nipples on fire. It was
Whoa. We're just going to breeze past that.
We are. We have no time.
Okay.
My mom's sister burned through like the first layer of her eyeballs once watching
Holy
welding.
shit.
So.
Oh my
God.
God. I'm covering my eyes. You guys can't see it, but...
Some Hellraiser shit.
Yeah, she just was like watching people weld, and she didn't realize the reason why you need those, welding helmets. She just like sat there and watched from the door, and she woke up the next morning and could not see.
Yeah, there's a lot of safety training for that reason, specifically.
Yes. Anyway, keep going.
That was like a big moment of independence for me. I was the first person in my family to like go to a college campus, and I was like riding the bus there and everything. And that's when I started like having a lot of time to process and coming to terms with myself. And I like fell into the worst depression of my entire life. Like every single day I would ride the bus and I would hope that it would crash and kill me, or that the welding machine would explode. It's not really good to be deeply suicidal in an environment where there's a lot of dangerous equipment.
Yeah.
So it's finally like I did 1 year of that, and then around this time, I like way back in, I think 2017, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to drop out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but like, I can't do this anymore. So I did drop out, and I just started like working for a while. And I was also realizing I was not a girl actually. And this was not what I wanted. And I didn't know what I wanted to be. I started to realize like I was trans, but like I couldn't talk to my family about it because they were not at the place where they would understand that. So I was waiting for them to be at a place, and then like, it's like, well, that's not going to happen. I remember I had a lot of conversations with my mom about what I wanted to do, and she told me I couldn't tell my siblings about it because they wouldn't understand, or she was afraid of me telling them. So I was very isolated. My dad was not supportive. He would constantly try to talk me out of it, and there was just so much resistance to any kind of change that I felt really, really hopeless, and that anything was going to change. And that's when my eating disorder started getting really bad. I was like, what else could I do?
Yeah, it's a big surprise.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
So you're living at home this whole time, right?
With my mom.
Okay, with your mom. That's right. Your parents divorced. How close were you to your siblings through all this? Like, what was your relationship with them?
The closest sister I have that's younger, she basically already knew. She's also queer. A lot of them are. They all have more of an understanding. Yeah, more of an understanding than my mom thought they did. And they saw me going through all this. Like, I tried to hide it, but like, obviously when someone in the family is like having a huge mental crisis that's ongoing, like I couldn't hide it. I was always the funny person, I was always like joking and taking people out on adventures. And I tried to be that so bad, but at the end of the day, they would see me just collapse. And I felt horrible about it. And as things got worse and worse, like I wasn't eating with them anymore. I wasn't spending any time with them anymore. I would just like constantly be leaving the house, and they would see me like crying with my mom. They would see her crying. You just can't hide it. Like it affects everybody, not just you.
Yeah. With a big family, especially.
And pretending is exhausting. So that's going to, have an effect eventually.
Yeah. And I was pretending to be so many things, just to get by.
But at the same time, I don't know, it sounds like you did have a good idea of who you were earlier on. At least, like with my queer journey, I have only come to the realization that I'm gay like this year, recently. And that's been a whole thing to explore. But with you, it sounded like you had that awareness, or at least like the seed of awareness early on. And, you know, you have the same repressive background I do. So I'm wondering, how did you educate yourself and like accept that about yourself? Like, forget telling other people. Like, what was that like inwardly as you were going through that?
Like with the gender stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a long story that I've had to unpack for a long time.
You got the spotlight.
I guess I got time. I mean, I was always a little bit different in church, you know, a little weird, an artistic kid. That's why I was allowed to like cut my hair short and like dye it different colors and wear alternative clothing at church. Oh, because she's artistic. The elders of my church didn't like it. My dad got in trouble for the way I was not adhering to their traditional femininity. I wasn't allowed to wear pants until I was like 13.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
How weird is that? Like, what?
It's so weird that even saying it feels like I'm talking about someone else.
Right.
I'm just like, oh yes, because short multicolored hair is the work of the devil. That's what he wants. It's just an army of people with short, funny colored hair.
You don't look like a child of God.
Right.
Yeah. And also, like, our church was very into anti-abortion movements.
Oh, finally a place I can connect.
Yeah. I mean, that's not super relevant, but it's a fun fact. I'm like, I used to work at one of those fake abortion clinics, volunteer there. That's why I know to look out for them. But like, I was trying so hard to be a really good Christian. I was trying really hard to be like what everybody wanted me to be and what I thought I wanted to be, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know I was queer. I just knew that I wasn't what I was pretending to be. Like, I knew I was lying. I knew I was being fake, which is really hard because like you just spend all your time pretending to be something to people and you don't ever spend time exploring your inner self. And is that what causes mental illness, or does it just make it worse?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking is, I mean, I didn't grow up in quite as severe of an environment as either of you, but it's like you spend so much time trying to be what everyone is telling you is the best thing to be. And it's just like you're striving for that so hard that you don't get to find out like who you really are.
Also, like, who I was unacceptable. Like, I would hear so much transphobic stuff growing up. Like, say, see a man with long hair and go, look, he's a cross-gender, a transsexual freak. And like, my own family saying stuff like this. I have so many memories. Mm-hmm. And I knew I liked girls when I was like 13. I would even like smorch my little church girlfriends who I had crushes on all the time. But I knew I could never ever do anything like that. I just knew like, oh, inherently I have this thing that is like not acceptable to people. So I'll just like push it down forever. But like internally, I didn't see it as a bad thing because it's obviously not. Like, I think I had a strong internal compass that told me like, this isn't actually true, but you're never ever going to be able to express it.
Yeah, it's so heavy. And it sounds like even after you got a little more freedom, like that's when you got the most depressed. It's like finally having the room to be free is a whole other sense of heaviness.
Yeah, you're right about freedom can be depressing. You're like, do I have the courage to do this? Or like finally facing like the dream that you've always been held back from and realizing maybe I just don't have what it takes to actually live this. And I'm scared and I don't know what it's going to be like. I would see like people on the internet. There was a lot of like early sort of trans male like transition spaces on the internet. And I would like go on Tumblr and stalk them and, and like look up all the stuff about the transition and be like, oh God, I wish that were me. I wish I had the courage to do this. I wish if I did this, my family wouldn't leave me forever. And I had nowhere to go. I knew that my family wouldn't like that. My church wouldn't like that. I didn't have a lot of other friends. I didn't know if I'd be accepted into this world. There was nowhere for me to go. And so I just, was dying. I was doing the only thing I could do, just getting through every day, just disappearing a little bit at a time.
I don't know if you'll agree with this, and I don't know if I'll explain it very well, but as you're talking, I'm thinking, like, when you finally, like, have the chance to be who you know you were meant to be and to start living that life, it almost feels to me like you have to mourn the fact that, like, you weren't able to do this earlier. It's almost, that's a death, that it's like, 13-year-old me or 10-year-old me who should have been able to be living this all along wasn't able to. That person never existed. And I just find that really sad.
You know what I was mourning the other day? I was mourning the future children that I used to want, that I used to use as reasons to recover. I used to tell myself in high school, like, you need to recover for your future children. And now, of course, like, I know I will never have kids, but I still feel guilty and kind of sad about that. About, you know, I never grew up to be that person. Those future kids will never exist. I don't know. That's what that made me think of.
Whoa. Side note, like, isn't it weird how weirdly specific all of the recovery reasons they give you in, like, basic eating treatment and another treatment is like, oh, don't kill yourself, you're gonna have kids. You know, you want to grow boobies back? You want to grow your... Okay, so that's a bit later, I guess.
Thank you for keeping us on track.
But seriously, every time that I've heard when people are like, oh, you won't be able to have children, you know, you can ruin your organs, I don't know, so that you can't have children. I'm just like, so?
Ooh, free abortion, thanks.
We went there.
I'll go there every day.
We went there.
I don't care.
My mom will not be listening to this. It's fine.
Sorry, Ginger Lou. But not really, because we're different people. It's okay.
Yeah, we're all adults here.
She gets it.
So you were really depressed. You were sliding into your eating disorder. You didn't talk about when that started, the whole eating stuff.
I think it started early on when I realized I wanted to transition. I was still doing roller derby at the time, but I was going less frequently because I was like really struggling with my mental health and I was having panic attacks there. And there was also like this older guy on the team who was like grooming me and I didn't want to be around him.
Oh no.
I tried to tell my parents about it, but they didn't believe me at the time. So I just kind of dropped off eating.
That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the past. Zero effect on me now. Totally.
You're right, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was also just like they don't prepare you for that stuff in the church. Yeah, I asked to be called different names and pronouns at my roller derby team. And, you know, my coach was cool with it and stuff, but like a lot of people just didn't get it. There were other trans people on the team, but like they had a hard time because I was like pre-transition. So my coach told me like, well, you look like that. You look like how you look. So it's going to be hard for me. And I was like,
Damn.
okay, yes, it's my fault. It's my fault for having titties.
And this was in Portland?
Yeah, nearby. He was a good guy. It's just that like some people, like people struggle with it and I understand that. But like I internalized that as like my body's wrong. And I would always roller derby made me love my body so much. It completely changed my perception of my body as a teenager. I became so big and strong, the biggest and strongest I've ever been in my life. And I could do anything. I was like a superhero out there, but I gave it up because I was like, well, this is not who I am anymore, I guess. Like I can't be this and be who I want to be in the future. So I remember distinctly, this is kind of fucked up. I think this is where my eating disorder might have started. Looking at myself in the mirror and I just kind of broke up with my body. Like I looked at myself and I was like, this all has to go away. Like I can't wear this costume anymore. Did you do this too?
I mean, I've never said it that way, but it sounds very familiar. I've definitely looked at myself and been like, this is all wrong. You've got to do something about this because you're going to lose yourself.
What was the self that wasn't aligning with the body?
I don't know. I guess for me, at least, Lauren, maybe you feel differently. I feel like I didn't want to take up space. I didn't want to be perceived because I don't know. I'd gotten so much negative attention for my body and I didn't like it. I was having a lot of feelings and like depression at that time and self-harm and all that. And I was like, my body's caused me nothing but pain and nothing but attention. And I don't want any of that. I don't know if it was even a conscious thing. I make it sound like it was conscious, but it wasn't. Lauren, what's your way in here? No pun intended.
I feel like I had a kind of like similar way of coming at it, but the thing is that my memories like that, like my first ones, are so very early. They're going to be much more simplified. Like one of the times that I remember that made me think of what Orion just said, looking at his body and separating from it, was actually when I was 4 years old. My mom wanted to take a picture of me in this dress that she made that I really loved, and it was my favorite. And, and she made some comment of like, you're going to grow out of that soon. Like you're getting way too big for that dress. And I remember like looking at it and just feeling, with as much as a 4-year-old can understand, like all I knew is that I understood at 4 years old that I could not make my body smaller to fit in my favorite dress again. Like, I was going to grow whether I wanted to or not. People grow bigger than 4 years old. And I just remember being so sad about that there was nothing I could do.
Yeah. I remember like that perception of just like that fuzziness of you don't really have a concept of like, oh yeah, your body gets bigger and that's normal. Like, I gotta reverse this.
At that point, I couldn't think of anything of, like how I'm going to go on a diet. What eating disorder behaviors can I employ when I'm 4? I was just like, I'm going to get bigger and it's sad.
Or just applying the logic that like, yeah, it's normal for people to get bigger. You're supposed to. Mm-hmm. You're a kid. That's what they do.
Yeah.
I've actually, before Lauren came on, I interviewed a few trans men who were assigned female at birth, and they all kind of had similar stories where their eating disorder kind of developed in part due to just being trapped in a body that they felt like they didn't belong in. I don't know if you have anything to say about that a little more.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. I mean, the trauma, like, even if you're a quote unquote cis woman, there's a trauma of growing up in like a body assigned female at birth that everybody shares. Just like you said, you had so much attention for your body. Just by nature of having a female body, you're going to get a specific attention. And then in the church, it's exacerbated because now you have this role and now you have all these rules about what you can and can't do. And you have all this moralizing about your body. I developed very young. I guess I was pretty. I had big breasts. I had a big butt. I looked cute in dresses. There were boys who had crushes on me that I had to like try and keep away from me.
Pretend like you cared. No.
Also pretend like I cared because I wanted validation. They were my only friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like breaking up with my body, I was also like, I'm breaking up with the safety of being cisgender, the safety of being this thing that I know I'm good at. I'm like the alternative girl. And I'm kind of like a feminist hero to some younger girls that I know because they know that you can be a girl in a slightly different way. So what am I like giving that up to? Like it's giving up your whole identity. But at the same time, like I don't want it. I just need something else. And the only way I can go from here, that was when I started like working out a lot more because, I was an athlete, like that was easy to do. Mm-hmm. And then I just like started eating less. And I started changing what I was eating and when I was eating. And I stopped eating with people. And it took a long time for anyone to notice. But like I was losing weight very rapidly. My coach actually commented he was concerned. And that was like right when I quit the team. Because I'm like, I physically can't keep up with this anymore. And also I don't want people touching me. Like instead of making me feel better about my body, a lot of times it made me feel worse. Like it didn't get better.
Which is the opposite of what it started out for you, which was like a healthy outlet to reconnect you with your body.
Yeah, I still really mourn that connection that I had with that. I've rediscovered it in other things, but I think that someday when I get back to roller derby, it will be very healing because I will be back as myself. But in a lot of ways, I did feel more like myself. Like my eating disorder made me feel really good in a lot of ways, the changes that I was getting. Other than being an emotional wreck, like I would look in the mirror and like my chest would be flatter, my face wouldn't look so feminine, like as I got thinner. And I started being able to be androgynous in situations where I wasn't before. And that was euphoric. And that was teaching me like, oh, I don't want to be perceived as any kind of way.
In addition to, the physical changes, you said, like, I was no longer an emotional wreck. Like, of course, because there's a pretty healthy dose of numbing that comes along when you're engaging in those behaviors. So that had helped that.
Yeah.
It was very distracting. Like, suddenly, my difference in my gender, my queerness wasn't the issue. And suddenly, my parents were just concerned about, are you dying? Are you going to die? Instead of just being like, why don't you just be normal? Why are you having all these problems?
Well, it both raises and it lowers the stakes, right? You kind of are throwing them a curveball and having them focus on this other thing that has suddenly blown up your life and risked your existence while, you've distracted them from the thing that is causing it in the first place.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like, you're struggling internally with all of this stuff, and then you can, like, fully engage in an eating disorder and be like, look, shiny thing over there, eating disorder. That's the problem.
Yeah, my eating disorder got really bad at the time when I was feeling like the most anxiety and despair about transitioning. I just like went fully into it. and was like, all right, this is going to be my main problem because this other one I cannot deal with. So this is like sort of delaying it and also putting it in the way. At the same time, like I was trying so hard to do that. Like I would go to a therapist and I got my like letter of recommendation for top surgery. I found a doctor who would help me with hormones. And these were also like supposed to help me with my eating disorder. I was doing all of this on my own. Like I knew my parents would help me find healthcare for my eating disorder, but I don't think that they were really helping me with my transition. So I was like scrapping together what I could. And I was so scared every step of the way.
Well, of course you were alone, or you felt alone. I don't know.
Yeah, I had very little support. I had like a couple online friends I could talk to about it, but also I didn't really want to because I was constantly feeling like I was making the wrong decision for myself. Like there was so little validation. I refused to give myself validation. As every day was like, you didn't do enough. You didn't do good enough. You're not making the right choices. Like, why don't you lose a few pounds and then maybe see if you want to start hormones? Like, which is insane, which is crazy.
But it makes sense at the time when you're in it.
It's engaging in something that is more like socially accepted. Like if you say like, I want to lose a few pounds. Wow. Doesn't everybody say that? If you say, I want to start hormones to transition, people are like, what?
Yeah.
No, literally the guy on my roller derby team who was grooming me when he found out I wanted to transition, he said, well, don't do like hormones and like, don't go fully in it. Like just work out and do it naturally. Like that's what he told me.
Do it naturally.
What? How is that even possible, sir?
Like,
exactly.
Oh, he just wanted me to be his little girlfriend, so I don't really think he knew what he was talking about. But, you know, I did start hormones eventually. 6 years ago I did. That was 2017.
Oh, yeah, I saw the post you made the other day. It was so beautiful.
Me too.
Yeah, I was 19 years old, went to my local clinic, and I did that first shot myself, and I was so scared. Yeah, I remember having to like walk to the pharmacy after a long day of welding and work and everything. And I remember just crying on the way home and sitting in the waiting room. I was really alone. Like my mom drove me to my like long distance doctor's appointments. She didn't want me to die, but I knew at a certain point I had to do things on my own free will. And I'm proud of that person, that scared little person doing that they continued forward. They didn't just choose to lay down and die. I saw that someone who was fighting really hard to make a better life.
But with that said, it didn't happen overnight. And like, obviously your problems didn't all go away after you started transitioning.
No. And I really wasn't in any delusion that they would. But I'm like, if I don't start this, nothing is going to change. Like, I know I'm not going to recover until I do this. That's the thing. My parents were like, why don't you recover from your eating disorder and then decide what you want to do? And they're like,
as if you can choose. Like, oh, thanks. I will do that.
Hey, I'll just start eating, I guess, instead of addressing the underlying problem. Like the behaviors are just a symptom of like bigger things I needed to change. And like they weren't helping me change. So I started hormones like in September, and then like a month later, like the eating disorder was not getting better. I was in a really bad place with my health. And I was like, something will get better soon. The hormones will kick in and I'll start being happy and normal again, maybe. But I was really losing hope. And it was like a few days after that, after Halloween, it always ends up like around holidays, doesn't it? Yeah, my mom took me to like an intake appointment at our local behavioral health program's eating disorder program for adults. I agreed to go just for an assessment. I'm like, I'm not going to go through this program because this is for people who have problems. And that's not me.
Not like me.
No, I'm different and special. And I will not be doing this because that sounds terrible. And I went in and they did the assessment and said, you should go to the hospital right now, actually. You shouldn't go to our program at all. I was like, what are you talking about? I am going to work tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to the hospital. And my mom was just crying so much in the waiting room. And I said, okay, I'll go. Because I think internally also, like, I knew they were right. And like, I didn't want to sleep in my bed for one more night. My heart rate was really low and I could feel it every day getting slower and slower. Like when you're on the brink of death and you just like are laying in the grass outside, move, and you start seeing like visions of death in front of your eyes, like skulls and graveyards and dead leaves and stuff. And you're like, I'm not dying.
Sorry. It is spooky season. It's quite apt imagery.
It was spooky season, so I think that was it as well. Thinking about a pile of dead leaves makes me feel like I am already a rotting corpse in the ground.
Well, no, we're laughing, but it's because we've been there.
Because it's familiar? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we share that spooky experience.
Love that for us.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds melodramatic when you talk about it after the fact, but when you're in it, it really does feel like
when my heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest, like as I was getting downstairs so that I could go to treatment for the first time. And I was just like, wouldn't it be ironic if I die on my way to treatment?
No, but also like, kind of wish I would, because the hospital sucks.
I'm glad that you came to that realization and like you reached that moment of surrender, I guess you could say, before it reached that point where there's no turning back.
It could have been worse. We drove home and I got my stuff packed up, went to the hospital, and I remember like my younger sister went with us and she was crying, but we were also like making jokes and stuff to try and like not be super sad. I was very scared. I spent the next couple days just like on a monitor, on a meal plan, and like on bed rest and stuff till I could be stable enough to go into the program. And I had just started a new job too, so my mom had to go to Costco and tell them why I wasn't coming into work. At the hospital, like they were just using I still had my dead name at the time, but I like explained to them that I like used he, him, and they, them pronouns, and like most of the nurses did not get it. Like a male doctor came in the morning when I pressed my call button, walks in and sees me and goes, "Oh, why did they send me? I'm a boy." I'm like, "Sir,
oh god,
it's your job." Then I finally got to go into the intake program, which some other people on the like eating disorder ward at the hospital were going to. So I knew some people who were also going in there. I had met them a couple days before, so I was like, okay, I can do this. I can go in, but I'm not going in with this name. Like, I am not going in with this identity. Like, I'm going in with whatever body I've got, whatever body I come out with. But that was when I first used the name Orion. Like, they had the new people's names on the whiteboard, and I could see, like, my dead name was, like, erased and rewritten.
Oh.
That was the day my family first heard it as well. The day I came home from the hospital, because I was in a day program at the time. So I went through that day, people calling me Orion for the first time. Then I went home and introduced my younger sister and everything. And like my younger sister was super excited. My mom was like, okay, I guess this is your name now. My dad was like, I don't know. I don't know about this.
You were talking about how you didn't really have support before, you were feeling alone. Do you feel like you were able to find a community in treatment?
Yeah, that was my first time doing any kind of group therapy. And it was really life-changing. Like, obviously not all the sessions were ever life-changing. Not all of the people were helpful, but meeting and speaking to the people I did, yeah, that was really, really different. Because for the first time, you don't have to like completely mask. Like for the first time, I was like, oh, so regular people are also not normal, you know?
Yeah, like your first time being in a room full of people who have all been hiding who they are for however long. You have that in common.
All different kinds of people. There were even some trans people there that I met. And there was a lot of people who were transphobic there. But like, I could still talk to them for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your first time meeting other trans people, like in the wild?
In the wild.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does that count as in the wild?
Out in these streets, yeah. I mean, that's the place to go. If you want to meet trans people, go to any psych ward. No?
No!
There will be some there.
Yeah, I guess so. I only met like one or two trans people there. I'd known some people from work as well, including the person who became my partner for a long time. And I also met someone in treatment who was also my partner for a while, which is a dubious situation.
Those are always good relationships.
Yeah. But you bond with people so fast in treatment.
I know.
That person's still my friend today. They're really cool. A lot of cool
nice.
people you meet there. So I did a couple months in that program. I got a bit better. I got a little bit stronger. And then I actually ended up back there the following summer after I got my top surgery. So I did get surgery pretty shortly after I left that program. And that was really life-changing for me. Like, up to that point, like, I didn't think I could recover until after I got that surgery. So I'm really glad that I was able to do that. Like, my dad still really wasn't on board. My mom wasn't, but she was going to help me get this surgery because she was most involved in my recovery out of anyone in my family. And she knew this is what I had to do, even if she didn't like it. And that's something I'm very grateful for her help for. I will never, ever take that for granted that she did that for me, that she was there the last face I saw before I went into surgery, and that she held my hand in the waiting room. And like my dad was there when I woke up. And like your family they don't have to understand, but like they're still there for you, you know? Like you've hurt me, but like I know that you want to help me, and it matters. It does matter.
When we were on the phone the other night, we were talking about our moms and how similar they are. And like, we have to remember they have also gone through everything that we have gone through, but like from a different perspective. And, you know, it can't be easy for them either, not to excuse any transphobic or whatever behavior. Like, that's never acceptable. Abuse is never acceptable. But with that said, I love my family, and they have grown a lot and supported me in ways I never thought they would. And it sounds like yours has too. That's awesome.
Well, the thing about like families and moms and parents, the things they do to hurt us hurt so much more because we know that they love us and because we love them so much. Like, if my mom was a piece of shit, you think I would care if she like didn't use my name? Like, no, I will explain to her so many times. She's like, why do I have to like be on board with this? And I'm like, because I love you. Because you matter to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, like I got my top surgery, and then like my eating disorder was still really bad, and I recovered from surgery, and then I went back to the program. And that time I spent a few weeks in their kind of like residential program as well, where nobody else was there. So it was just a house with me and a staff person in it, which is weird.
Oh my God.
We've talked about a lot of weird treatment scenarios on the show, but that one, I haven't heard of that before.
No.
Yeah, it's like normally there would be other people there, but just for some reason it was just me, which is probably for the best. You know, it was kind of awesome having all that space.
What did you take from that treatment stay that you didn't necessarily get the first time around?
I think the second time around, I was more prepared for it. I went in more autonomously. I did go to the hospital briefly again that time and then go back into the program. So I was just like, all right, now I know what to do. Now I know the program. I'm not super scared, and like, I knew the therapist I didn't like, and I knew the therapists I did like. Most of them I didn't like.
I'm back, guys. Let's fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically I was like, hi, Susan, I'm back. She's like, I knew you would.
All right, Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot more out of that second time, but I was really glad to leave. I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave now. Because before, my insurance had just kicked me out because I wasn't gaining weight fast enough. A weird choice for them. And then the second time, I was definitely more prepared to leave and to go into the world.
And when was that?
I think I got out like in summer of 2018. Or I moved out of my mom's house later that year, like in 2019, with my partner at the time and my best friend. And it was really cool, like getting away from the house for the first time and like being autonomous and figuring everything out. And then COVID-19 happened. And I was in a really bad situation at home because like my friend's partner had also moved in. So we were 4 people in a 2-bedroom. And then one more person moved in who was a friend of my partner. And we slept 3 in 1 bedroom. And we all were very mentally ill.
Sounds like a party to me.
I know.
Well, we started out as like a sober household because a lot of us were recovering. And then we just started like drinking and smoking all the time just to, you know, be around each other all the time. And I was also working like 70 hours a week at a really horrible job that ran from like 4 a.m. to late in the day. So I didn't want to be home. And also like some other people were unemployed, underemployed, and they spent a lot of money. And I was just like, well, I can just make money for people instead of, you know, being a real person. Maybe that will solve the problems. I mean, I still got out to do other stuff. You know, I was just young and crazy and the world was on fire and I didn't even think of going back to treatment, but my eating disorder also started getting really bad again, just because I wasn't paying attention at all.
A lot of people relapsed in 2020. A lot of people.
Yeah, just so much stress. It was different than before, though. I wasn't like doing it obsessively to look like somebody else. I was just like, I need something to like numb me out at the end of the day. I need something to focus on. So that was different than before.
Yeah.
I wasn't really ready for that, where your eating disorder stops becoming something that you're like, it stops becoming a hobby and it's just like, oh, this pattern I can't get out of. And it's not fulfilling.
That's literally how I feel right now. And it sucks. No matter how long you've had the eating disorder, it somehow appears in a new like iteration every time. And it is scary, legitimately scary when you realize this is out of my control. Like, I am not doing this intentionally anymore. If you ever were to begin with, you know, it's really scary.
Right. Because when you begin, you're like, you know, I'll get to I'll reach my, like, whatever goal this is trying to accomplish, and then I'll stop, you know? I can stop whenever I want, you know?
Yeah,
But
I know for me,
Lauren.
sorry. I was saying for me, I know I always felt like I was, like, for years and years, I felt like I was trying to do this so hard and that I wasn't, like, doing good enough. I was like, even if I try hard, it's never going to get that bad because I'm just not capable of it, so I don't have to worry about that. So when it just happened of its own volition, that it was like, oh, things just got really bad and I wasn't even trying. Now it's scary.
Now,
Yeah.
what was there, like, a specific goal in mind that you thought, like, oh, I'll never get to this? Or did you just keep, like, shifting the goalposts?
Yeah, I think I had, specific like numbers and stuff in mind that anytime, I had what I would consider, I'm making like huge air quotes, a good run at behaviors. Then, I never quite got there. So I was like, okay, that's never going to happen. And that isn't even, bad enough to be concerning. So I'm fine.
Yeah. But beyond numbers, I feel like we all think there's like a specific sort of life we're going to live if we do the eating disorder right. For me, I was like, I will just have like gender euphoria and my life will be ordered. My mind will not be in chaos ever. And my family will love and accept me. And I won't feel scared of anything. I'll just be invincible.
I don't know about you. I never thought anything would magically happen, but I did think that I will just be content with my life. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
I want to say, like, I know we've been talking forever and like there's so much more we could talk about, but one of the things that you said early on, Orion, that struck out to me was that your eating disorder did make you happier for a while. And you were both describing ways you would think your eating disorder would fix your life. Like, some of that stuff does happen as a result. Like, people do treat you better when you, lose weight. I do feel like I have my shit together when I'm restricting. Like, I'm invincible. Like, in some ways, that's the toxicity of it. The eating disorder does, at least in the beginning, fulfill those promises. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if I want to have a good night, I do a couple shots of vodka and a few glasses of wine. I'm probably going to have a great night, but tomorrow I won't have a good day.
Yeah.
If I do it every night, my life will suck. And that's what the eating disorder is. It's just a drug. It's just another quick fix.
But how did you come to realize that? Like, how did you start getting serious about recovery, I guess? Or do you consider yourself serious about recovery? Like, that might be a good final, like, thing to talk about.
Right now, I am serious about recovery. I can say that because, like, I am feeding myself enough. I know that I still have an eating disorder in the way that, like, I am weird about food. And, like, sometimes I do eating disorder behaviors. And sometimes, like, it gets worse and it gets better. But I'm not on a mission to partake in my eating disorder. And, like, you say you have lapses. You have, like, lapses and, like, like in a moment of stress in your life when everything is just, like, coming at you at once, you're gonna turn to that thing. But that doesn't mean you have to keep going just because you're on that track. Do little harm reduction things throughout your day. Like, that's fine. Like, you don't need to continue on a track where you get bad enough to, like, oh, now I have to go back to treatment, and be in a perpetual, because those people who are just in a perpetual cycle of, like, treatment and relapse forever. Like, do you really want that to be you? Like, I don't. Those people were so annoying. Those people were not
fun. Who among us does want that? Like, who among us, I don't know if anyone intentionally seeks out to go back to treatment over and over again. It's just, well, some people do. I think
some people do, but I mean, I don't think the point is, like, I think they're doing it for a different reason. They're saying, like, maybe this is the only time they felt cared about. So they keep going back because they want to feel cared about again. But
and it's hard to engage in the world outside of treatment. It's really fucking hard, even for us who are, like, quote unquote, well-adjusted.
Yeah, something that we said in the beginning, I was thinking, like, between the three of us, we might have a fully recovered person. Except,
yeah, I mean,
maybe
being out of treatment is embracing the chaos of life, and that life doesn't always look like they tell you it's gonna look like. They're like, oh, you're gonna eat 4 yogurts a day. Like, I don't remember the last time I ate a yogurt. gross. Like,
Yeah. Figured.
Yeah, I think we've already bonded over that. You eat a lot of fucking yogurt in treatment.
oh, especially if you're vegetarian. Like,
Yep.
individual packs of almonds and yogurts. Thank you. Thank you. I will. This is what normal people eat. And, like, they try to teach you how to eat normal, but nobody eats normal. Like, life is
Right.
chaotic and messy. And I think neurodivergent and mentally ill people have a really hard time with being normal. You know, like, you do the same thing at the same time every day. Like, I like routine, but, like, I need to be cognitively flexible enough where if something goes wrong, I don't just, like, use that as an excuse to self-destruct, you know? Like, I am just prepared for whatever happens every day. I'm just trying to go with it and, like, find some peace within myself and find, like, reasons to carry on when things are not going the right way. I think is better than just trying to create a life where nothing upsetting ever happens. Because life is upsetting and it's long, and I've survived a lot of upsetting things before. And I'm going to continue doing and learning the skills
Hell
how
yeah.
to do that. You think that recovery is going to be like, you have a big wound in your chest, you go in and they just, like, patch it up and you're good to go. You think it's just like a linear healing process. Well, you have a problem, you get treated, and
Yeah,
you are
every
better.
morning you wake up and it hurts a little less. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they'll fix you, right? So my family thought, I think, would
Mhm.
happen.
Same.
But, like, recovery is not like a band-aid. It's very complex. Like, mental healing, it's more like solving a Rubik's Cube. You're just, like, turning it this way and that, trying to, like, get things to line up. Just doing it one move at a time until things start clicking into place. And, like, one day maybe I will solve a Rubik's Cube, but I don't know how. But every day I get a little closer.
I think the place I was just in, that they said something that was like, nobody recovers in treatment. Hopefully get put on the path to recovery, but like, nobody comes out recovered.
No, they were trying to teach us, like, DBT skills and stuff. I remember looking at the time being like, I don't understand this bullshit. The hell are you trying to... But now, it, like, several years later and so much experience and, like, mental development later, I'm like, oh yeah, actually I can use these skills and I can learn them. But at the time, you're just in chaos. You just need an anchor to get you through. And then you also have to learn how to stand on your feet and to keep walking.
Because life is chaos.
Because life is chaos. You know, just pick a direction and go.
Yeah, it's like you've been that person, you know, like in a blindfold and they're spinning you around and around and you just need them to, like, someone to say, like, spin you to the right direction and give you a push. Like, go that way.
I'm really curious, like, what are the reasons these days that keep you in recovery? Like, as we wrap up, what brings you joy these days? And, like, what are you really proud of yourself for lately?
I'm never not grateful for the autonomy that I have in my life now. Like, in the last year, I was able to move out from where I had been living with everybody and move out to a place on my own and, like, start a new work in a new city. And I've made so many new friends and I've done so many new things. And just, like, being able to come home to peace with myself, to be able to trust that I can be alone with myself and, like, actually be happy like that. Like, I'm never not grateful for that, and to not be in a place of constant stress. And, like, that brings up a lot of things. Like, I've had to, like, internally face a lot of things that I've been able to distract myself from. Like, I'm not in therapy right now. I don't have any kind of therapist, but being able to be in community with people is so healing by itself. Just surrounding yourself with good people. It lets you practice boundaries and empathy, and community is very healing. Like, I'm very grateful for everybody who shares with me, and I'm grateful for you guys for sharing. And I feel like you are a community that I have or is part of my life.
We are a community.
We are.
I told, when we started, I tried testing out a different tagline and it kind of flopped. But I was telling Lauren, it feels like this episode feels very like chosen family. Because I feel like I've told Lauren before, she kind of feels like my big sister because I've never had one. And you feel like a little brother in some ways, Orion, because we have such like
I'm gonna cry.
The three of us, I don't know. I mean, that's just like, yes, we're all awkward and we can't stay on track and technology sucks, but like I feel so comfortable with you both, and I'm really grateful that like we have been able to form this little community for what it's worth.
I wish that all of us could just be in the same room talking.
Yeah,
this feels
right?
comfortable.
Without a lag.
Yeah, exactly. Without us all having to be like, oh, sorry, every time we all speak over each other.
We'll do this again and we'll get better at it, I promise.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say, Orion? I don't know. What else do you want to say?
It's like at a job interview where at the end, like, do you have any questions for us? And you're like, God, I know I have to have one or else I'm a bad interviewee.
Do you have anything you want to say to the listeners?
You're not a bad interviewee.
Listeners, listen up. Go out today and just be content with yourself. People are always like, go out and hug somebody. Go out and just, be content with yourself. What day is this coming out on?
Tomorrow, Monday the 9th.
Oh. Hey, do you know tomorrow is Thanksgiving in Canada? Shout out to Canadians who are listening. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Canadians. We love you.
I hope it's better than American Thanksgiving. That's my least favorite holiday. Oh, the holidays are coming up.
But guys, guess what today is? It's National Lesbian Visibility Day.
Oh my God. I see you.
Just noticed. One holiday we can get behind on this show.
Yes.
All right, we're becoming delirious. Orion, where can people find you if they want to follow along with your art, which we didn't even talk about, or just want to message you?
Except that your art is too good for my office. We did say that.
Oh yeah, we did.
I'll send you more. If I have your address, I can send you some more postcards. I'd love to do that.
I would love that.
Oh yeah, we will take Orion Originals any day of the week.
But yes, on Instagram, I'm Roboticus, which is robot a kiss, like a moth. You'll find me in the comments of the Pickles and Vodka podcast Instagram, which you can
yes.
give out your handles.
Yep. Follow us on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast.
And if you want, you can always email us at picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com.
I was really glad to talk to you guys today. Lauren, this is the first time we've talked, and I want to know more about you.
Wait, you wish you talked more? What was that? Say it one more time.
I just want to know. I just want to hear you talk about yourself more.
Whoops, talking over each other, didn't hear you. No.
You can find us on Instagram on our personal accounts. I am at xtinajumper.
And I am at Pico Suave, misspelled Picosauve, and it is my dog.
And that's Pickles and Vodka, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Everyone say bye.
Vape time, right?
Oh, we've been vaping.
Are you kidding?
Time.
It's been vape time the whole time.